All right, hi guys. How's everybody doing? I'm gonna sit on your level because I'm 6'9", and it just makes it very awkward when I stand on a stage. So for those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Will Nace. I'm a co-founder of Nace Reptile and Conservation Center, which is a nonprofit sanctuary that me and my wife started together in hopes to continue to save animals. And I believe the topic that I'm supposed to talk about is how the aquatic industry changed my reptile hobby. So I am a YouTuber. I have over 100,000 subscribers, and when I hit about 80,000, I started coming to Aquashella, which completely changed my sight on keeping reptiles for the main fact that I could add water features to their enclosures to better their habitats. So over the past several years now, I've been building fish tanks. I have a 280-gallon fish tank with a fly river turtle in it. For those of you guys that don't know what a fly river turtle is, it is the cutest little turtle. Well, they get about the size of a football, but they're also called pig-nosed turtles. So I have that, which I would have never been able to have if it wasn't for the aquatic industry for having fish tanks. They are fully aquatic. They will live in a fish tank or a pond their entire life. So the fact that I am able to keep one of those now is amazing. I also have, 20 or so vivariums that I built. Out of those 20, about 4 or 5 of them have water features in them, so those are called paludariums for those of you guys that do not know. And keeping fish in with the snakes or dart frogs, because there has that water feature in it now, again, is another step increasing the habitat of an animal. So obviously, when you keep animals in captivity, you want to make it as naturalistic as possible, right? Right? There you go. Got to make sure you guys are still awake. I know it's been a very long day. I'm already exhausted. I'm sure you guys are too. But anyway, so I have a 4-foot by 4-foot paludarium. I have dart frogs in. I have tree vipers in. I am a venomous keeper, so that most of my snakes are venomous snakes. I'm sorry if snakes creep you out, but I absolutely love them, and I owe my life to them because I wouldn't be where I am without them. But anyway, so I have dart frogs. I have fish. I have all types of stuff all in one enclosure, which, again, thanks to the aquatic industry, I was able to better the keeping of that. Now, as for moving on to other enclosures outside, I have an Asian water monitor. If you don't know, they are the second largest water monitor species in the world monitor species next to Komodo dragons. Again, Asian water monitor. So they absolutely love to swim. Doing what I'm able to do, I was able to link up with Siche, who is an amazing company, and they actually gave me an amazing filter system because they do like to poop in the water for my Asian water monitor. And I'm actually going to build a nice big waterfall for him and everything like that, which again betters his habitat, being able to give him a pool big enough to swim in that's going to stay clean constantly and everything like that. So it's just another step. Another thing which you might find very weird also, I have crocodiles, alligators, and caimans. Again, everything that lives in the water, right? I know most of you guys probably have fish tanks, and you really wouldn't want to put a crocodile in your fish tank. I beg to differ. I think it's way cooler. So I have a little Nile crocodile. His name is Scott. He is actually in a 20-foot long tank. He's only about that big, so he's a baby. He'll only live in that tank for about 7 to 8 months. Once he gets too big, then he will be moved outside. But again, adding water features to all these enclosures betters the life of the animal. Now, if you could keep a turtle, most people want, a land portion of their aquarium and also a water portion so that turtle can get out and bask. Tortoises, they don't like water, so you don't really want to do that. But it's just part of it. So I'm going to see if anybody has any questions. No? Yes? So baby sulcata, but most tortoises, okay, and this is going to sound really weird, and I'm very sorry for this, but they get most of their moisture through their butt. So that's why they like to sit in the water, because yes, they will drink it, but when those particular tortoises eat, they actually only digest about 40% of what they eat. So they don't even get a lot of moisture out of, say, if you give her lettuce or something like that. But they will sit in the water and just let nature take its course, and it basically rehydrates the turtle. That's why sometimes it's really good to put a little calcium in the water too, because that'll help with the structure of his shell. But, yeah. Yeah, it just needs to be just deep enough to be basically to the bottom of his shell. That's it. Any other questions so far? No? No? Nothing? Yeah. Yeah, probably for Yeah, she'll probably be able to live in that for 5 years. Yeah. Once they get about the size of, I'd say, a baseball or so, I would maybe move her out. But in about 10 years, she'll be about the size of a basketball. So if you feed her and everything properly. Yeah. You're welcome. So here's the thing. Do you want that water monitor to stay nice and friendly? Don't put it outside. Don't. It changes their attitude so much. Now, and I know this sounds wrong, but with particularly water monitors, the smaller enclosure, the better interaction you'll have with that animal. So they do thrive in large enclosures, but they don't feel as safe in large enclosures, especially when it's outside, because now you're introducing a whole new world of noises and like all different sounds and stuff. So his mind is always thinking he's going to get eaten. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're still working with him every day, take him out, pet him, have him on your shoulder. You can even get the harnesses for him. So if you're afraid he's going to walk out, like jump off you or something like that. I mean, those, I would say, so he's probably what you said, 2 feet or so, or a little less. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, maybe in the next year or so, bump it up to like a 40 breeder. Oh, you said it, how many gallons is it? Oh, so you have it in a big, oh no, so yeah, he'll be okay in that for at least 2 years. I'd say about 2 years. Yeah. No, so Asian water monitors, I don't know, I always tell people I classify them as their own because they're completely different than like the Savannah monitors or the black throats. You can move black throats or Savannah monitors outside and they usually will stay tame as long as you continue to work with them. Where it's like they're a thicker bodied monitor compared to the Asian water monitors. But those guys, for some reason, everybody I've known to keep them outside, and again, still going in 2 or 3 times a week with them, they've been fine, no problems. So, hopefully that answered your question? Yeah? Anybody else? Go ahead. So, most of the water features I have with my snakes are all with the tree vipers, just because they're a higher humidity snake. So depending on your snake, I mean, most people just put like, if you have rat snakes, they like a little higher humidity than ball pythons. So they'll put a bigger water bowl in with their rat snake versus a ball python. You can make paludariums or, different aquariums and stuff like that for different snake species if you want. It just depends on your budget and like what you're willing to do for your animal. So I've seen people keep ball pythons in paludariums. It's not always the best, particularly for that snake, but depending on what you guys keep, you can build a bioactive enclosure for ball pythons for whatever you guys basically have, and it'll still thrive in those tanks. So, cool. Anybody else? You want to know something really weird? Oh, go ahead. Yeah. It depends. Is it a male or a female? Does it have long fingernails or short fingernails? So it's, how old is it? 10 years old. So if it's got short fingernails, it's a female. Usually the males get really long fingernails, but the males stay smaller than the females. They get about half the size. So if it's a female, she's going to keep growing to probably about the size of a dinner plate, just a little bit longer. But yeah, you'll definitely have to put her in something bigger once she gets that size. You're welcome. Have you looked online? Because everybody loves fire-bellied toads. They're really pretty. No, I mean, it's honestly, at that point, it's going to be luck of the draw. If somebody gets them and posts them, I mean, well, with the seasons changing right now, a lot of things stop getting produced or even imported or anything. So right now, everything does drop. Come springtime, everything starts coming back in, and you'll see the babies become available and stuff like that. So it does have a lot to do with seasons and stuff too right now.
And those are the water feature is good for fire.
Oh yeah, oh my God, they would love that water. Yeah, always. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can get a piece of glass to cut it and basically divide it. If you want to do 50-50, silicone the glass in, let it cure. That's one way to do it. I've seen other people do it with rocks, where they literally will silicone, just so it looks a little bit more natural. You can cover the silicone with crushed rock and things like that. So there's a couple different ways to do it. You know, I'm sure you could find plenty of videos on YouTube, either myself or even Tanner does them. No, you could miss the tiniest little part on the foam and it'll just go right through the foam because the foam is so porous. So yeah, but I mean, glass is your best choice when it comes to that. It doesn't look as great, but you can always do the glass and then cover it later with like little pebbles or something before you continue to scape the tank. Anybody else? You guys want to come sit up here with me? Go ahead. So again, this goes back to your budget. I had built one for my buddy Chandler. I don't even know how many years ago that was. 6 years ago or so. I built him. I want to say it was like a 6x8 enclosure for his monitor, and I literally used one of those concrete mixing troughs, the black ones you get from like Home Depot or Lowe's. And I mean, that lizard, full grown, can sit in that whole trough, sink himself if he wanted to. So you could use something like that, and you can even add, if you wanted to, add bulkheads or something to it. Because as long as, I always like to say, as long as the animal can get in the water fully and then also get out of the water fully, like that's an acceptable ratio. And it's like that's one of the laws for crocodilians. They have to have enough space to get in the water fully, turn around, and get out of the water fully to turn around for their enclosures. So I like to kind of use that with other things as well. So yeah, you could get one of those really large black mixing, and they're really cheap too, as long as you give it enough support if you are lifting it or anything like that. But you can put bulkheads in them. You could drill them easy if you needed to and everything, or just put a stand-in filter. So there's options for it, but start with like the Rubbermaid tubs and things like that. They're great. No problem. Anybody else? So you know, my first job right out of high school, and even though I'm a known reptile guy, was working in a saltwater fish store for 2 years. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. It's very weird. Anybody else? No? Sure? Ooh. My favorite animal that I keep right now? My 5-year-old daughter. Ooh. I don't know. I'm leaning a lot towards turtles right now, as weird as that sounds. You know, I absolutely love my snakes day in and day out. But for some reason, I've been so fascinated with turtles lately. You know, I have the Fly River. I have an alligator snapping turtle, which has been like a dream turtle for me in Florida. It's not really easy to own those. You have to go through a very lengthy process to own one legally in Florida. Nope, still illegal to touch them. Yeah, well, you sure it's a common or an alligator snapping turtle? Yeah. Well, I have one of those. I have a Matamata turtle. We actually took in a turtle from U.S. Fish and Wildlife that was confiscated at Miami Airport in somebody's underwear. Yeah, so it was pretty funny. But we kept him. We have Mark McCarthy gave us a pink belly side neck. So I don't know. Lately I've been leaning towards turtles and somewhat crocodilians too. So that's kind of been my drive. Anything else? Man, I figured I'd have more questions than this. Go ahead. I am not breeding any turtles right now, only because I haven't gotten to building their enclosures yet. So my main focus right now is getting all the enclosures built for all of our mammals, all of our larger mammals. Like I have a capybara enclosure to build when I get home after this show, and I'm not looking forward to that. But then I have like a macaw enclosure, and once I get done with all those guys, then I'm going to be working on the crocodilians and the turtles and stuff like that. And when I start designing those enclosures, I want to design them to obviously be as natural as possible, so I can get certain things like I would love to breed matamatas. Something for my Fly River turtle, you know, hasn't really been bred in captivity before, but I want to do basically a big circular pond with sand and everything. I want to plant mangroves in it, so it basically goes in a big circle, and I want to see if I can try to get them to breed outside in that. So I would love to do that when I'm ready. I'm just not quite there yet. You live in Florida, you can't have a tegu. Yeah, you can't. They're illegal to have now. Since 2 years now. You can't even legally go out in the wild and catch one. You have to have a facility that's open to the public in order to own a tegu in the state of Florida now. And you have to have documented hours of doing tours with people seeing that animal. Trust me, I know. Go ahead. I mean, honestly, and you know, I can say this because he is one of my best friends. You know who Tanner Serpa is? Okay. If he has an enclosure built on firebelly toads, I want to say from 2 years ago. So yeah, that enclosure alone is. I know obviously his stuff is very hard to copy, but you don't ever really want to copy somebody's enclosure. So it's always better to come up with your own ideas. You can mimic it as much as you want, but just don't try to get it exactly as his. But I mean, you could do 25% land on them because they do spend a lot of time in the water if you give them a water feature. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can even give them stuff like certain branches and stuff to climb out of the water on, you know, and they'll still do that too. So that's considered enough for them to get out and everything like that. Yeah, yeah. If you ever want to, you can shoot me a message on Instagram or whatever and ask me questions. And no, trust me. I get asked a lot of questions on Instagram, and people are shocked that I actually answer them back because we wouldn't be who we are without everybody else. So I like to help people out as much as I can on Instagram and stuff like that when they ask questions. Go ahead. So in Florida, to legally acquire an alligator snapping turtle, they are under a permit called scientific collecting. And again, you're supposed to document and prove that you're doing educational talks or encounters with that animal. You have to submit about 10 pages of paperwork and documented like what you're going to say in this tour or in this education experience. You have to take pictures of their enclosures that you're going to keep it in and submit it and stuff like that. And then if you get approved, which can take up to about a year, you can also apply with them to receive an alligator snapping turtle because they're not necessarily easy to get sometimes. You can set it up with Florida Fish and Wildlife where if they confiscate one or something like that, they will bring it to you as long as they approved your permit. Yeah. Actually, yes, it is legal. And the babies aren't permitted because there's not a classification on them. So Fred Grenwald did it, and they were the craziest looking turtle you could actually, like, think of an alligator snapping turtle head with a common snapping turtle neck. It was weird, but really cute. Yeah. Little baby? Yeah. Little canals for little baby turtles like that are the perfect little spot because you got all those little fish they can eat and everything like that. I mean, at that size, they're eating insects, little snails if they can get them. You guys in Florida? What part of Florida are you guys in?
We're in South Florida.
Oh, okay. So not too far from us. Yeah. I mean, mind you, just like any other animal that lays eggs and hatch out, you know, maybe 50% of those babies will make it to adulthood. But I mean, if you moved them off the road and put them in a canal, you gave them a better chance than getting hit by a car or eaten by a bird. So, yeah, see, that's common in South Florida. That's a very common thing. People hit alligators in the road. Yeah. Oh, that's good. So, well, there you go. You maybe saved his life too. That's good. Anybody else? Come on, you guys are all quiet. Go ahead. So I was exclusively reptiles, and I had no idea about paludariums or anything until I came to this show. Okay, so Custom Cages, Custom Aquariums is a guy, Ted, over there. He's an old school YouTuber. I believe his YouTube was like Ted's Fish Room or something like that. They were sponsoring a cage build for me, and they literally were like, hey, we want to give you a paludarium. And I was like, what the heck's a paludarium? Had no idea. So he walked me through it, you know, took me months to figure out what I was going to do and order and all this other stuff. But so basically, have you scaped a tank before? It's the same thing without water and live plants. You got house plants? That's all you need. You can go to Home Depot, spend $50 on house plants and make a tank look amazing, and you can scape the bottom too. It's really not, and you don't need to put something living in it if you don't want to. I mean, you could literally just do fish, and then, hey, maybe in 2 years, once the tank's thriving, you know, the whole ecosystem's good in there, if you want to add dart frogs or a chameleon or whatever you want, you can, you know, try. I would say start with something a little easier than a chameleon, but, you know, you can take that, you know, step forward if you want to add something else, but, like, let the ecosystem grow, let it thrive. If a fish dies, please don't take this the wrong way. Put it up on the land portion so the insects can eat it, and it just adds to the ecosystem. You know, instead of throwing the fish out or flushing it down the toilet or whatever people do with their dead fish these days. But I mean, it's if you want to try to take the leap of faith, again, too, if you have any questions, feel free to message me. I'll help you out if you need. Okay? Come on, seat's open. What's up, guys? So, funny story. Everything for, you know, custom aquariums, custom cages, all that stuff gets shipped to my house when we have a Florida show, and then we rent a U-Haul and ship it here. We were missing a crate, and I was going to get my dream Paludarium. My wife didn't know about it. She was going to be very upset when she found out. Sorry, honey. But it was a 6-foot by 4-foot by 24-inch Paludarium that I was super excited about. And it got lost in the mail for 2 days before the show, and then we found out last night that it was going to get delivered to my house, but nobody's going to be there for a couple of days to unpack it because I have people watching my house. But it's a very large tank that 2 people can't move by themselves. So I was actually going to build it, set it up for the mata mata in the bottom, and I was going to put several tree viper species in the top. One type of tree viper species, but several of them, and that kind of would have been like a dream Paludarium for me. I am working on a smaller Exoterra right now that I'm going to do just all orchids, but it's all like a universal rock one, and this is one I've never spent so much time working on a tank. I've been working on this tank for almost 6 months, and I feel like I want to rip it all out and start all over again. So no, I mean, every time I build a new tank, it's kind of like fun and exciting. It's like, okay, what can I do different with it? So the biggest one I've built to date for a Paludarium is my 4-foot by 4-foot by 20-inch deep one. But, you know, well, I guess I shouldn't say that because I have built bigger Paludariums for shows, but they were like kind of just thrown together, not like an actual done, you know, fully planted and everything like that. And I mean, I love that thing. That thing's been going now for, what, 4 years I've had that Paludarium, right? So about 4 years. I mean, and there's things growing in there that I didn't plant in there. So yeah, and literally the only thing that I have in there right now, again, is just, you know, some temple vipers and some dart frogs and stuff like that. And I have some fish in the bottom. But I mean, that thing is honestly just thriving, and I love it.
Do you have an animal room like Surfer?
I have an animal building, and then a whole zoo part of the property. Yes. Yeah, he did. He had built a tank at the time. We had put the squams in there, which is a bush viper from Africa. He built the background at his house and then shipped it to my house. But off camera, no, we didn't tell anybody this, but I had to shave it down because it was too big, and then try to like mimic his work with the color correcting and everything. It was a nightmare, but it was fun. It was before Animal Con last year, not this year. But yeah, he had come and he did a whole big setup for it, and it was great. But again, I was keeping the snakes in there that he had did the video with, but then I took them out and put something else in there. But yeah, no, I love Tanner. Yeah, he really is. Yeah. So again, that goes back to your skill level and what you guys want to spend. You know, if you have the time and the money to build at a Paludarium, by all means, I'd say do that. You know, when I used to keep frogs like the pixies or Pac-Mans and stuff like that, I used to keep them in just straight, really wet, moist dirt, like dirt and things like that. And I never had a problem with them. I had them for years, no issues. You know, now knowing what I know, yes, I would probably build a Paludarium for them. But again, you know, if you want to start keeping one, you could just simply do, you know, moist substrate, and that could be fine for them. Yeah, it's a frog. I mean, frogs love water. Yeah, you just don't want the dirt. If you want the water to stay clean, so it stays, you know, obviously looks nice, you don't want that dirt to flow back. That's the problem. That's why it's always good to try to have a barrier. But yeah, if that other side is really wet, that's fine. If he doesn't want to deal with it, he'll climb to the top and he'll just sit on top of the dirt. But that mostly won't happen. That's very normal for pixie frogs. Yeah. Well, he'll probably just sit on the side and just kind of chill with his feet in the water. No, they'll sit in the water. I mean, I mean, I would say like the different, like the Pac-Man frogs, the pixie frogs, all that stuff. I mean, they literally, from everything I've seen and the ones I've kept, they like if I put a big water bowl in there, they'll just sit in the water bowl for days on end. So when I kept them when I was younger, that's what they would literally do, just sit in a giant water bowl for days. Yeah, Pac-Man. That's what I'm saying. Keeping them is relatively similar. So it's yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And if they feel uncomfortable or they're getting like too wet or whatever, they'll climb and sit on top of the soil. Like they'll bury themselves if if they want, but which most of the times they do because they're messy animals. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah. I don't, but I know. I don't know if you know Kevin McCurley from Nerd. He recently was actually talking to me about me coming up there to build a paludarium for his Amazon tree boas. So I might in a couple of months because he actually has in his store downstairs, he's got a giant paludarium and he wants to enclose it and put them in there. But he wants me to come and like rebuild the whole thing. So I don't know too much about those particular snakes. But I mean, I don't see why it would be a problem. I know people do keep them in vivariums regularly. Yeah. 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 So are you have, I mean, you have a heat light and stuff on it, right? So if you want orchids to grow in there, I would try to keep it maybe on the opposite side that you have the heat light on, or if you have it in the center, maybe move it to one side so you can try to get the orchid to grow on the other side. I have no problem growing orchids in mine, but I don't have any heat lights on mine because all the tree vipers I keep usually like to stay around 75 to 73. So I keep the whole building at that, and then the snakes that I need hotter, I have heat lights on them in a different room. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing that and also making sure that for water, just like basic orchid care, when you're watering them, the roots do need to dry out for at least a day before you water them again. So it is difficult. I had so much trial and error when it came to growing orchids in vivariums and paludariums because I have everything on a mist system. So you have to get super tropical, like the dwarf orchids. Those things are great because they don't really need too much of a drying out period. So, I mean, you can, if you, for example, have a mist system on it, just turn it off for a day or two, let those roots dry out if you have them in like sphagnum moss or something. And then, you can turn it back on for a week again. But just giving them every few weeks a time to dry out, they usually do better like that. But if they're constantly wet, they always fail. Yeah. In like the net pots and stuff you're saying? Yeah, so when I build my vivariums, I usually put like net pots and stuff on the background, and then I'll cover it with foam and stuff, and then just make sure it has good drainage. But I personally like to attach my orchids to the wood structures and the hardscapes and stuff like that, or certain parts of the back wall that I'll make for orchids. So like the orchid paludarium I'm building, which I'm trying this out for the first time, and again that's why it's also taking me a very long time. But I'm using that, what is it called? It's like a fabric that holds water very, very well. And I've actually been talking to my buddy Mike about it in Canada because he uses it. And I don't know if any of you guys know Troy's Tropical Garage. Huh? Yes, that's it. Thank you. So those guys all use it, and they're amazing vivarium and paludarium builders. So I wanted to try it out finally. But yeah, that's what I couldn't remember the name of it. How do you say it? Hydrolon? Hydrolon, yeah. But it's basically, it's a fabric, but it holds water very well. So I'm building parts of the wall with it to make it look like the wall, and I'm going to put, the dwarf orchids and stuff on it, hopefully. But again, it's trial and error with a lot of that stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, and you can, if you take animals out, again, I don't know, you said it is a vivarium or a paludarium? So yeah, so you don't necessarily want to fertilize it either because that could affect it. So another option is if you kind of get a pot that you can hang somewhere, like on the back of one of the branches or something, maybe deck it out with moss so you can take it out too. I've seen people do that as well. This way you can fertilize it, let it dry out, re-soak it, put it back in there. So there's a couple different options you could do for that, definitely. Again, if you want to, ask questions about it, shoot me a message on Instagram and I'll help you out. Anybody else? Is that it? No? I mean, go ahead. I don't even know how much time I got. They just, oh, well, they just told me I had to talk at 2. They didn't tell me how long I have, so. No, I don't personally build my tanks because I have 2 small children and I do not want glass all over the place. Yeah, I for most of my zoo, I use the Exoterras and like the Zoo Meds and stuff like that. The bigger tanks I get from custom aquariums. But yeah, the building my own, like if I had my own workshop somewhere else where I knew my kids weren't going to run around in or something, I would attempt it to try it. But yeah, I haven't done that yet. He uses glass. Yeah, plexiglass scratch is too easy. I can't I have used plexiglass for some stuff, but even the plexiglass enclosures and things like that. So I also build vivariums and paludariums and stuff for customers as well. And I've had people bring me tanks that were 4 foot by 24 by 24 tanks, but they're all plexiglass. And it's like they're very flimsy. They scratch very easily, and you can't really buff it out too easy, where it's like with glass, it's not as easily scratched. So I personally just like glass better. What's the next one? You said you had 100 questions. Yeah. Usually when he builds his own tanks, he does them frameless. And then I want to say the video he posted last Saturday, I could be wrong because, again, I'm not on YouTube all that much. He had an old tank that was one of the store-bought tanks, and he literally cut off the plastic trim to then take it apart and rebuild it. It might have been. I didn't even finish watching it. Yes, I love Tanner to death, but there's only so much I can listen to that man's voice. It's okay. I could Snapchat him right now and say we're talking about him on stage, and he would just send me a story laughing. You want me to Snapchat him right now? I'll Snapchat Tanner. Why not? Let me see. Okay, Tanner, so I'm on stage, and everybody wants to say hi to you. Go ahead, guys. Say hi, Tanner. Everybody loves Tanner. He's missed at Aquashella. Everybody over there is like, hi. So, yeah, so you're very missed here at Aquashella, buddy. Yeah, he was at Animal Con, and he's like, I'm not coming to Aquashella either. At Animal Con? Oh, my God. I think I was the fastest at that, actually. Me and Tanner, I think, were like the 2 fastest people at putting the tank together. Yeah, it was interesting because I wasn't expecting that. And they didn't have enough. Oh, it's actually Tanner's birthday today. Wow, yeah, there's a little cake next to his name. See, I didn't even know that. But yeah, so that part kind of sucked, but it was fun, but they also didn't have enough supplies for us. Yeah, so it was like, everybody honestly did the best they did. Animal Con, it was in Orlando in August, I think, right? A couple months ago. Yeah. August 15th. Yeah. So it was, yeah, hopefully, yeah. This year was way better than the first year. Yeah. If they have it on next year, I'll definitely be there. So that's Brian Barczyk's event. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of animal content creators and stuff like that. So, I mean, I got to meet people that, I never thought I would ever meet. So, it is fun. Is that it? October? Oh, October next year? Oh, okay. So I guess it's in October. I didn't even know the date. How do you know the dates are out? See, I thought you looked familiar when you sat down. Okay. So yeah. So you said it's in October next year. Perfect. Awesome, man. Thank you. All right. Is that it? Go ahead. Yeah. Shiners, definitely. Never goldfish. Yeah, shiner. So I have a peacock bass and the mata turtle, of course. I'm actually going to be trying to get my peacock bass off the shiners because the peacock bass lives with the fly river turtle, and there is always that chance that they could have a potential illness or disease or something. But if you want to regularly feed it, but I mean you could also just do frozen thawed tilapia, just cut it up. Oh, wouldn't eat. Oh, ooh. Piranhas, yeah. That's the thing. It's they will try to eat. They go after fins and things like that. Like my peacock bass, when she opens her top fin, there's a perfect little bite from the fly river turtle out of her top fin. So it's like they'll take opportunities when they're presented. So it's kind of hard to say on that one. Yeah, I mean, shiners are pretty, especially when the light hits them just right. You know, that's why they're desired by many fish. Go ahead. Tilapia, because I'm assuming you guys live in Florida. Yep, just go casting in a canal. Tons of tilapia, because common snapping turtle's digestive system and their immune system is amazing. Yeah, think about it. They're literally garbage cans that live in canals in Florida, where we have the nastiest water in our canal. They eat those tilapias every day, and they're fine. So they have an amazing immune system. Yeah. Like I feed even my alligator snapping turtle. Well, all the tilapia I get out of my pond on my property, but I mean it's the same thing. They have amazing things like mata turtles and fly river turtles. They have a weaker immune system compared to Florida animals, I guess is the best way I could put that. Does it make sense? Yeah. So, anybody else? Hi guys, welcome. I think I'm almost done here. I don't even know how long I'm supposed to talk, but welcome. Go ahead. Yeah. How big do you want it to get? How fast? Pinkies. Pinkies. Yeah. Preferably frozen thawed. You don't want to give them a frozen thing. I mean, you might give them a brain freeze, but no. Yeah, definitely frozen thawed is always better. I don't ever suggest that anybody does live feeding. It is sometimes necessary, but yeah, frozen thawed is always the best. And it's going to save you a lot of money ordering a lot instead of buying one at a time. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you for coming. Hopefully you learned something new. And again, if any of you guys have questions, feel free to message me on Instagram.